kind of quote-unquote excuse doesn't quite fit in as much. Both teams are reasonably close now in terms of where they are in the world geographically, but also they're pinging at roughly the same. Maybe Blank have slightly worse, but that being aside, Blank is still the favorites here, I'd say, on paper.
You'd certainly think so, and both teams out the gate. It is going to be the double sniper for Blank, and Incipience are going to run that Pharah. So we're kind of just seeing all the standard beats of Oasis, if you will. I think Cryptic on this Tracer could cause a chunk of trouble for Huss and CKM if they're not careful, or if Cryptic is left too unchecked. They're keeping clustered with their supports right now. It does provide those two snipers a bit of safety from the flankers.
Waiting to see if Huss can get some work done here. You can note that he's getting a decent amount of ult charge. And CKM's actually going to be the one to pick up that first kill. So expecting Blank to really move in off this right now. Stop Fearless from getting that res onto Cryptic as well.
And the fact that it was Cryptic who went down means that those snipers suddenly don't have that same backline pressure. Huss taking a couple of shots from Ambition, but a sick headshot. 4 hit points left on Huss, can you believe it? The dive up from Xenofly, but the scales have already been tipped the way of Blank here. He's going to lose his mech for it. Kind of ended up diving into a bit of a hairy situation there. Blank were ready for the collapse. Now you see the ultimates coming online for Blank as the kills come through. Hopefully won't need to commit too much more. Who did throw out the self-destruct. Kura's thrown the Valkyrie in, but it looks like beyond that, though, they want to maybe hold on to this Dragon Strike for a defense later on down the line. Also going to be coming up on some other good defensive options.
We are expecting, well, we did kind of expect Incipience to maybe come in there and force a couple more ults out of Blank. They got their ult slightly faster. They didn't quite get the cap fast enough, though, so they did have to spend a couple of the ultimates, like, you know, the Valkyrie here. But going into this next fight, this is where we need to keep our eyes on where that Dragon Strike is going to go.
They've still got all those defensive tools as Incipience are still kind of working things up. So I'm kind of expecting this to just be a hold here for Blank. Incipience need to start playing the long game.
So waiting to see where Incipience are going to engage from as well. Know that Ambitions has changed onto the Genji here. Huss has got some decent sight lines on this entry area for Incipience as well. Meanwhile, we're looking at that progress meter, we're looking at the percentage points, and it's all Blank. Incipience need to get onto this point.
Yeah, look at how much time they've taken just to even start moving towards the point, because they're respecting those very sight lines, but also because they're trying to poke up a bit to gain some ultimates. Huss catching Cryptic though. Oh, Savage Dab going to get caught in the crossfire of that one as well. And already Incipience, without even properly engaging, Blank just starting to catch them in the rotation. Incipience need to move a bit more decisively than that.
The other thing is, Blank haven't been forced to use these resources yet. We're still sitting on the same Dragon Strike. We're still sitting on the same Primal Rage in that time as well. We've built up a Transcendence on Tongue. Incipience, meanwhile, they have a couple of those ultimates as well on their side, but they haven't been able to take the fight to Blank just yet. Huss has been getting some decent picks, and that's really stopping Incipience from getting grabbed.
And now this Dragon Strike is going to have the exact same effect. It just throws a spanner in the works for any engage Incipience want to do. They are starting to trade back, but unfortunately they've lost some tanks in that. CKM does go down in the dive. Tongue wasn't close enough to him for it to be reasonable to commit a Transcendence, but now Savage Dab in here, he does have Fearless in the pocket, but this is still a Blank controlled point, hitting that 90% mark. Now Blank are the ones with the ultimates at their disposal. Transcendence now matched by Xeon Flux to Tongue's own, and there is still a self-destruct in the pocket of Huwu. This is really anyone's fight here, but with Savage Dab getting a bit low, Incipience, they need to start making something happen fast.
This is also Incipience using everything they had, right? And they're still currently in this fight, kind of bleeding out just a little bit, maybe stabilizing for the time being. Oh. As you say that, though, a couple of kills coming up from Blank D-Mech.
Yeah, Carroll was able to pop that Valkyrie as well that Fearless hasn't quite come, excuse me, up on just yet. And that's the difference in the ultimate rotations here. We're really seeing it in effect. Ambition looking to turn it around, only gets 2 before going down himself. But they have made some headway. CKM also went down. Still the trades are there, and CKM gets raised. Xeon Flux getting picked by his counterpart. Second Transcendence for Tongue during this fight. Still at 99% for Blank, and it's starting to just feel like a matter of time. Xenofly essentially alone on the point. I think Savage Dab might get there in time. No, he will not, despite having a Primal Rage that could have maybe stalled for longer. But I feel like it would have only been just that. It would have only been stalling. That was essentially Blank's fight, but for its completion.
And a little bit too much time given away to Blank. A little bit too much space as well. The setup just wasn't quite there for Incipience. Again, ultimates not being blown out of Blank, not being forced from that defensive side. Incipience taking a little bit too long to get into an engagement. By the time they actually fully committed, we were at about the 80-ish% mark. That's a little bit too much time for Blank to have already played with. By the time Incipience are maybe in any space where they can win this fight, we're already into the 99% overtime. Blank have already gotten away with this one, and then they lose members anyway.
And that's the tricky thing. I mean, you already lost the opening fight to Blank where, you know, ultimates weren't on the table. When you're essentially even again, there's still no guarantee that you'll win, and you're right. Blank just had a bit too much progress at that point for it to be safe for Incipience. Bit of a change of tack, though, for both sides here. This is going to be CKM on the Pharah. Incipience switching it up altogether.
A good read from Incipience to sort of predict that CKM was going to be able to do this. Expect now Cryptic and Ambition to put a lot of pressure on him. Playing from the high ground side is what Blank are going to start with here. And the point will open up in 3 seconds, so it will be Blank that need to be the ones challenging for area control first.
These are good angles on CKM, but having to stay safe here for the sake of not being too pickable by Cryptic means that Blank do end up losing a bit of that forward pressure. As I say that, though, they're still able to isolate and drop Savage Dab there. Now Xeon Flux as well, eating one too many. Rocket, Xenofly getting low. Blank know that they can just start diving with impunity. Cryptic is trying his darndest here, but he just cannot connect those shots with the Peacemaker. Blank are going to get the point.
Well positioned there by Blank as well. He's going to see the angles that CKM was able to take. Now Huss getting that area control in the front section, kind of getting the spawn camp as well. This is really where you want to see the Dragon Strike come out. There it is, directly onto the team.
Yeah, straight through as they were trying to funnel towards the point. Cryptic got dropped by just a shot from it. And then you saw in the middle of that as well, you had Xenofly trying to pull back. The tanks were already isolated, and Incipience were just separated.
This is a good place for CKM to play as well. It's going to be a lot more difficult for Incipience to deal with him until Incipience can get this fight, or rather take the fight onto the point again. We're now starting to see a little flashback from what was on City Center. It's Blank taking most of the control of the point itself. Incipience slightly faster to get in this time at least.
Ambition about to come up on a Dragon Strike here, and the team is just barely alive enough that they could turn it around, especially the trade back on Trill. Really answers for Cryptic. Good catch on Huss. Removes some of that pressure. Still a rocket barrage in the pocket of CKM. Good timing on the Transcendence there from Tongue. Was about to take a shot from Ambition Stormbow. Good catch on Xenofly as well while the mech was being self-destructed. And off the back of that, Blank had been able to just tip the scales a little bit too far over in their favor for Incipience to stay in this fight.
This is where you can start to feel the impact of CKM's Pharah really working against Incipience as well. When you have a McCree player, Cryptic, switch onto the Pharah himself, still very difficult for him to have his own impact here though, because until he can get through those gates, until his team can really push through, it's still CKM dominating the angles.
He's effectively playing catch-up. Even in terms of the ultimate charge, it feels like he is leading, but because CKM has the ground, Cryptic really needs to start getting some kills through. Oh, as I say that, catches the aerial, and meanwhile, Huss does the same to his counterpart with the Dragon Strike. He's starting to get the picks in. It is essentially 1-for-1. There's a shot onto Cryptic, though. That, I think, has been the one to swing it Blank. They've still got that self-destruct in the pocket from Huwu. He can reset the mech off that. Xenofly going to get picked off, and there's just nothing left here for Incipience. Even the Dragon Strike out from Ambition. It does force Blank to split, but there's no way they can follow up on it. Ambition himself already dead, and this is just the last gasp now for Incipience. Double 100-0 for Blank is what Oasis is looking like as the final Dragon Strike of the control map comes out from Huss. This is more like the Blank we know.
It was absolutely commanding lead, both maps as well for Blank there. Just nothing given away. Both times started out really strong, finding early picks, getting into that early cap. Incipience had some issues with re-aggressing on that first map on City Center, coming a little bit quicker onto University, but still just could not break that defense. Once Blank get a little bit of momentum here, they start getting these ultimates rolling. You can see this play right here by Huss. The Dragon Strike directly into the entrance point. That's another one fight off of one ultimate. Incipience are always forced on the catch-up, and then you have a couple of hero swaps as well. It just kind of shows Incipience not quite sure how they want to be approaching, looking for potential counters, and then those counters not really working out anyway.
And that's the thing, they were getting behind in the economy and never actually really catching up. Even when they were, things were just still a little bit uneven, purely because, I mean, naturally, the team in control of the point has that preemptive positioning. They can get a little bit more out of what resources they do have. That play of the game was one such example, even though it wasn't necessarily an even fight in terms of ultimates beforehand. But when those options exist for the defender, you've got to play a little bit smarter as the attacker, and unfortunately, Incipience just weren't quite able to get their way back in. That worries me a little, especially when we're looking at these escort maps where the ult economy, if you're not on top of it, can really ruin your offense or defense. Incipience kind of need to tighten that up a little bit.
And the biggest issue right here that we can see so far is that it was a little bit too easy for Blank. And what I mean by that is you'll notice that you never really felt like Incipience had the lead or the advantage at any stage of the game. They have had some decent opening picks or some picks or trades within fights themselves, but only to be traded back in much further in Blank's in their favor, right? So we haven't quite seen Incipience be in a position where they're definitively into the lead and it's Blank having to do catch-up. It's only been Incipience having to do catch-up.
And that's interesting because I think part of what was actually causing Blank to lose the match against Cyclops Athlete Gaming was the fact that they were in those situations at times where they were a bit more on the back foot. I don't mean to say, oh, when they're in that situation, suddenly they crumble. It was also a compliment to CAG that they were able to do that and then make that work for them, extend that lead. What I mean by that is it just goes to show if Incipience can't do the same, there isn't actually much of a chance for them at all. They need to start doing that.
Well, the difference is, right, it could be the difference between Incipience going in, they lose a fight, but they're forcing the ultimates out of Blank. They're really making some strong trades there. Maybe they even get ahead in terms of economy at a few stages or in terms of players at a few stages. Blank are the ones that are forced to clutch. Blank are the ones that are forced to really make something happen, press the issue, whereas Blank just felt too comfortable. Blank were in a position where they were really never forced to play out of comfort zone. They were really never forced to make real big plays themselves. They played standard, got the kills they needed to, got the damage they needed to, and Incipience kind of just fell by the wayside.
Yeah, they also kind of never really did anything about it, to be completely honest. They weren't ever really preempting those same situations. You know, you get, you know, you're after that first fight, you know that they've had a Hanzo from the start, you know that he's had a number of kills. Expect the Dragon Strike. Don't funnel into a narrow area. Don't send your D.Va too far forward. That's such a golden opportunity.
Or maybe send your D.Va really far forward to eat it. Like,
exactly. That is also a possibility, but unfortunately that wasn't what they were doing there, and it's one of those things, you know, you can preempt these things, and I'd like to see Incipience do a little bit more of that as well.
We're about to head into map number 2 now, selected by Incipience. Eichenwalde for our hybrid pick, and the thing that I'm also looking out for on the Incipience side is, are they going to make any substitutions? Obviously not going to happen for Blank. They only come in with 6. They're going to stick to their same 6 members. But for Incipience, we've seen Metallics play already. We've seen a little bit of Bubble Kitty, for example. So now with the addition of Ambition, is this now their go-to guy? Because Ambition was one of the key players in Chaos Theory, so it also wouldn't surprise me if he's now a mainstay of this team.
I also believe GNX from Chaos Theory might also be on this roster now. I can see you're confirming that as we speak. But at any rate, I want to say I think actually Eichenwalde is quite an astute pick here on the side of... do I have it right?
I don't have the update. I only have the original members down.
Well, as I was saying, I think this is a good pick on the side of Incipience because of how that middle point plays out. It is momentum-based, but it's not as linear as some hybrid maps are. You know, certainly not as linear as King's Row. It's all slowly moving around that central high ground. So if they can retain ownership of that, then they can force Blank to get ground to a halt. You don't lose out as much if you fully muck up the ult economy like what happened in Oasis. So I think this is potentially a bit more forgiving for them on the defense, but also potentially more punishing on the attack.
One thing I'm also looking out for here is if Cryptic wants to continue challenging Huss on that Widowmaker duel. So far it appears he wants to play Hanzo instead. Not a total surprise, Hanzo with the addition of the Fire here. That's a thing, they play that, that's fine. But we are also now seeing Huss definitely playing the Widowmaker on the defense. It's going to put a lot of pressure onto Ambition, who kind of has already felt a bit of that himself. You know, we've seen him versus CKM, who's now going to be onto the Hanzo as well. So what Ambition does on this attack is going to be very defining of how they get their success.
I do think they've got a bit of their work cut out for them though. Huss is on hit scan here. You do have ways you can deal with Ambition. But he does have a nice time getting in behind that Orisa shield. Meanwhile, it's going to be up to Trill and Huwu to really mess with Cryptic and whatever part is trying to dive here. Speaking of, They're able to pick off Xenofly's mech already. This is looking a little rough for Incipience. If they can start answering back, maybe get another rocket on Tongue. No, not going to be able to finish him off as Ambition gets shot out of the skies and Xenofly gets finished off. I think Incipience just had to kind of take this one on the chin and try again next time.
It's a difficult place for Incipience to be in because there is a little bit of trap here where they can feel like, okay, we don't necessarily want to dive into blank Esports. They have some pretty good peel options. They have Orisa, they have Hog. Not a great place to be in if you're a Diva or a Winston, but at the same time, you also cannot sit around to wait for damage, to wait for picks, because the poke on the other side of blank is going to be so much more effective, especially when Ambition has to spend a lot of time hiding, has to spend a lot of time dodging Huss.
And that's the thing, you can respect that they want to play slow and steady for the same reason the blank do. They want to slowly get more Storm Arrow shots out, get people low so that they can finish them off with, you know, Pharah splash damage or what have you, get some ultimates in the pocket. But blank want to do the exact same thing, and it is blank in the entrenched spot here. So Ambition, you see that, flies over, fires off one shot, has to pull back.
It's just target acquired by Huss every single time. Infrasight out now. No secrets here, and it is going to be Incipience trying to press this issue. They want to be the ones diving in, and they're going to be rewarded.
Yeah, that's the way to make it work. They pop Tongue, they pop CKM. Res does come through, and Incipience haven't been able to raise their own members back. Would be good now to try and get Ambitions or Xenofly back in the fight. Not going to be able to get either. Ambition on the slow respawn, and Incipience are a little bit lacking in that front line. Huss eating a few too many Zenyatta balls there, though. Xeon Flux able to finish off that duel, but by the time all is said and done, he's got no tanks, he's got no DPSs, and he's trying to retreat now, stuck in the middle of nowhere. This could be a real punish if he gets killed.
And he does get killed, and that's a real issue because now Incipience don't get to play off of this player advantage that they had before. Even if they traded even members, they get to come back to the point slightly faster. It's members like Tongue that went down, like Huss that came down, so they need to be able to walk back in time. But because Incipience continue to drop members, and they still are continuing to drop members, blank are fully stocked up, all 6 members are back, 5 ultimates ready and available.
And it's so often Xenofly, unfortunately, just getting left out high and dry so many times. Whether or not he's even going into dive. When he is, at least he's trading for it. We saw that in the last fight. He at least traded off for Tongue before losing his mech, but in that situation, it was just hooked, one and done. Now, more aggressive move, are able to get on top of the point, gets 2 with that barrage, and that should tip the scales. Good trade backs coming through, though, and Kura is still up, going to commit that res to Tongue. They want to get that Transcendence in the fight. They are relying now on Huwu, Trill, and CKM to do the damage. Kura does go down to the self-destruct, but blank have a lot of presence on this point here. If they can start taking out these supports, nearly getting the finish off. They're having a much harder time dealing with Ambition, though. Huss slowly trying to rejoin, but by the time he's there, not enough blank members on the point, and it looks like Incipience are going to crack it at last.
This is where you really start to see Ambition's impact here. You see what he can do with the rocket barrage at the same time, though he takes down Tongue on the opposite end, who didn't use his Transcendence as he was getting blown up by the barrage. That's unfortunately going to be a big mistake. Ping or otherwise, he's got to be able to get that ability in there, keep himself alive, not risk Kura's life to res him, Kura then dying straight away anyway. It's all just kind of falling apart slightly too quickly for blank, but at the same time, because they bled off so much time, it's actually pretty slow as well in the Incipience end.
And they've got plenty of time here as well to do what they're doing here. They're harassing Incipience to begin with. They just want to slow them down, and they can do that knowing that they are safe to then pull back up to the high ground when the time for that comes. I like this from blank. They're just going to waste Incipience's time as much as possible. Getting the pick on Ambition really just furthers that goal. The cart is finally moving now after another 30 seconds were already wasted after it was capped through, and now Incipience starting to lose this fight. They had to dive this high ground to contest it, but they don't have DPSs that can back up their tanks here. It's really just Savage Dab, and he has to keep supports in the pocket. They're trying to keep people on the cart here, trying to beat back blank, but this is such a slow way of doing things.
They are getting some rewards from it, right? Because you see the cart positioning here. They've made it past that first corner, that first bend. That's an incredibly important place for Incipience to initially be now, because right at the beginning during that choke area, that's where blank want to play as a defensive team. Now they have to sort of switch around their defensive side as well, look for other angles, and for Incipience, despite not technically winning that in terms of members or kills, they do get a lot of objective progress.
They absolutely do. The thing that starts to hurt them now, once again, is that clock. They still need to get ownership of that cart which will involve getting ownership of the high ground, and then there is the entire catwalk, moat, whatever that is, the bridge that they still have to take as well. And again, Blank getting deep into Incipience, just playing pure disruption here. Trill gets low, but it is going to be safe here. They want to try and get now onto this cart, force Incipience back off it. Another 30 seconds has been wasted. Incipience have ownership of the cart, slowly moving it up, but they've still got to get all the way forward to that point cap. They don't exactly have a lot of momentum right now.
Well, I would actually say they have a decent amount of momentum because the card has been steadily moving it. It's been Blank trying to regroup the entire time. Blank waiting for members to come back. Blank have been consistently leading out members throughout this entire process. And Incipience are kind of doing the same thing, but their spawn is a little bit closer and they are still progressing that objective. That is what's important. They only have 30 seconds remaining, but so far, 30 seconds is still just enough time to maybe finish the second point.
It's just enough time if they get a nice big fight with a convincing win. That is what Incipience absolutely need here. CKM holding on to this Dragon Strike, looking for a good angle on it. Ambition trying to punish the dive. Trill and Hua again just trying to play harass. Slow down Incipience. Good catch on Ambition from CKM. Throws a big spanner in the works. Savage Dab's Primal Rage has long since run out. They still don't have possession of this cart as they lose Xeon Flux rather. And that's a really nicely placed Dragon Strike. Just disrupts Incipience, forces out that Transcendence from Xeon Flux, and it's just all over Rover from there. The dive can now come in from Blank in full force, picking off the remaining Incipience members one by one. They did at least get some good progress with what time they had after capturing, but just never quite had the complete fight wins they needed to make big progress and cap out in the 2.5 minutes they had.
And a lot of this came from the fact that they took so long to get this A point underway, but it was off the back of a decently placed barrage from Ambition. Now the thing for Incipience that is somewhat of a silver lining, and I want to say this because it was an issue that I pointed out during Oasis. During Oasis, you didn't quite see the pressure onto Blank. You didn't see Blank in a sort of back-footed position where they feel like, okay, they need to be the ones to try and get back to a square level here. This time around, especially during this B phase, that streets phase, or basically the outdoor section here in the middle, Incipience really pushing Blank backwards. You're starting to see Blank make some mistakes. You're starting to see Blanks on the back foot, waiting for respawners, not quite stabilizing the way they want to. And in that case, that's when Incipience get the progress. That's when Incipience start to push forward. Unfortunately, though, just didn't have the time on the clock because A was a bit of a disaster.
Yeah, at least getting those trades here and there. That's important. I want to see them get a little bit more than just that, though. I do want to see them also starting to leverage those trades into ultimate advantages. I want to see them pressuring Blank enough to force resources from them. I want to see them being able to come back, get blowout fights where you can, you can march your payload through half of a streets phase in one fell swoop. That's what I want to start to see now as the next step here for Incipience.
Well, really, you want to see advantages as well. It's not just about trading, right? You want to get positive trades where you're coming out ahead, not just in terms of economy, but in terms of player numbers as well. You want it to be Blank that have to fully reset, not just Blank trying to stabilize with members waiting for respawns. You want them to entirely wait at their spawn, wait for their full 6 members while you push up, while you take positioning. That's when you're ahead as Incipience truly.
Now out the gate, Blank taking the approach of if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And Incipience, quick sticks, one and done. Ambition out of the skies, does get res back in. They had enough time to do that, but that is already fast pressure from Blank.
And on the other hand, you would say for Incipience, maybe it is broken, they should fix it. And that fix right now, maybe we just stop seeing this far up play because right now Huss is hitting shots, Blank are pushing up. Incipience already looking like they're backed up.
They nearly got a crazy halt hook on Savage Dab there. By the way, Cryptic, he is alive, but he's only on his way back to the fight now. So Blank have been able to take a nice forward position. This is how you can take your time if that's the play you're wanting to make. Setting up those barriers, looking for halt hook combos. There's one on Xenoflight, and they demech him straight away. That removes so much defensive presence from Incipient. CKM, he doesn't have a Dragon Strike, but when he does, he can thread it through. Might not even need it. They pop Ambition as well, just as he was coming close on a Rocket Barrage. But Incipients are trading back. This isn't going to be a cakewalk for Blank.
I will say, though, Blank do have a respawn advantage here. They do come out a little bit closer. Kill onto Ambition as well isn't going to be one that you can actually res up. Now that we start to see Hush down, this is where it gets difficult for Blank. Now they just can't wait in this corner anymore. They might actually have to back up.
Yeah, Cryptic rejoins the fray and immediately makes a splash. Trill, I mean, he and Huwu were trying their darndest here, but now Ambition has also been able to return to the fray. There's the resin on Xeon Flux, and unfortunately Blank's work has just slowly been undone here. Incipience have been able to recover.
Bit of an awkward res on Trill as well. He was stuck in that right side corner that you can see here, gets res directly back in that same position, and Xenofly, well, just kills him again, so has to go back to respawn. This is the full reset that you want to see if you're Incipience. You want Blank to fully go back to spawn and fully stop their push and start again. Now Incipience get to stabilize.
And this is where they're starting to waste Blank's time the same way that Blank wasted their time. Good catch on Xeon Flux. Oh, nice. Double with the Rocket Barrage is probably enough to tip the scales there. Dragon Strike going to come out from Cryptic. I like this from Incipience. The willingness to just commit to ensure that the fight is finished off. And this is where they're starting to get better trades now. Double Valkyrie to come out. They do lose Xeon Flux. This is now the respawn advantage starting to work its magic for Blank. Incipience, they need to start getting something a bit more convincing.
This is the problem. Economy is one thing, but economy only really works if Blank get the reset again. This is the moment where Blank actually get a decent player advantage, something that Incipience have kind of struggled to get at least on their own offense. And with that, you're probably going to see Blank cap out here.
Yeah, Hubu got a really nice wraparound while that was all going on. And that's kind of what tipped the balance. Incipience were trading still a little bit here and there. Blank, they had a bit of a numbers advantage, nothing unrecoverable, and they were just trying to pull back Incipience, take the heat off. Hubu comes around the backside, pops Cryptic, pops Xenofly, and from there it was just all over. Or rather, Savage Dab.
And it's still a difficult map for Ambition to play, right? Because Huss is one thing to counter out your fire play, but Hubu is hitting a lot of hooks onto the fire as well. Now that Blank are going to sort of switch up this composition, Incipience here and maybe Ambition as well might feel a little bit safer. It's actually a decent start in terms of ultimate usage from Incipience. You want that choke control. That's very important for
you. You would have liked a couple of kills in there. Unfortunately, didn't quite get that. Blank do need to start getting kills of their own, though, if they really want to break this position from Incipience. Trying to send CKM onto the high ground is their plan for doing just that. Getting Trill up in the thick of it too, but he does have to pull back down to the cart. Now it's on Incipience to take a fight to stop that movement.
Seeing some good backline pressure here from Blank Esports as well, starting out with CKM, but it's going to be finishing with Trill and CKM as well, going to be picking up the kills here. So you sort of see the way they're positioned inside the castle, around the back of the Incipience side. By the time Incipience want to make that dive onto the cart, Blank have actually got them already surrounded. Pick up the damage, pick up the kills, and this is where you don't see Incipience. Where are they on the defense?
I'm glad that Ambition changed the Genji. They're not going to get to the payload in time. Absolutely no answer, no response. It was a really late rocket barrage from Ambition. And I think he recognized that after that fight, the payload was probably just going to go all the way through unless he got a hero play, but unfortunately he went down right as it was channeled. And I feel like Blank just kind of had one eye into the future there. This is that wraparound play, by the way, from Who that I was talking about. It looked like they were kind of seeing into the future a little bit, because they took a sort of relatively even fight, started getting some movement on the payload, and then backed off. They went, okay, you want to stop us? You've got to come to us to stop us. And Incipience, they did. It was the right thing to do, but Blank were just a bit too ready for it, and from there, suddenly the fight just landslided. They were able to counter dive so quickly. Things were back off cooldown. They had the leap in from Trill, picked off the supports, dropped the tanks, and suddenly there was just nothing left for Incipience.
And the one thing Incipience could not afford to do was get a full team wipe themselves, that is, they couldn't afford to have themselves fully wiped off the table, because then that means Blank get the free push, finish the map. 2-0 is now the scoreline, and now it's starting to feel like a 3-0 series is definitely in hand. A 3-1 would be a pretty good finish for Incipience here, but a 4-0 is really what Blank are looking for.
And a 4-0 is probably where this goes. Incipience, I have to say, they did step it up a bit on Eichenwald, but evidently not enough to actually turn things around. I mean, Blank are still just currently playing a game that is better than what Incipience are doing. I mean, nowhere is that more apparent than the fact that exactly on that point B defense, Incipience did get wiped where Blank never did, and that made all the difference. One wipe in Incipience's favor on their attack could have been a lot more progress, if not a full cap out, actually. Both had somewhat comparable times, actually, after capping out A. Both those attacks went quite similar for both of those two teams. It really was that point B wipe that unfortunately broke the camel's back for Incipience.
Well, we'll need to see if Incipience can bring this one back, or if it's going to be Blank Esports taking it home all the way, a 4-0 on the cards here. But Incipience have a little bit more work to do, and that happens after this break.